Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talk2Rami podcast. I am so excited because I just finished my interview with the amazing Donna Karlin. Donna is a pioneer in the world of leadership coaching, and for the 38 years, she has been helping people become their remarkable selves. She's an award-winning author, keynote speaker, and is the best known as the Shadow Coach. She works with leaders, entrepreneurs, and high potential from Fortune 500 companies and small startups, governments, first responders, and anyone dealing with chaos and crisis. Donna is a member of the TED community, and her mission is to work with global change leaders. She loves working with people who want to become more of who they are and do what's meaningful and achieve their highest potential. She actually said something that grabbed my attention. We are not just human beings. We are human becoming, always changing, shifting, adapting to new circumstances and challenges. If change was easy, you would have done it by now. And here it goes, Donna Karlin. Thank you so much for Donna for being here. I really appreciate it, for accepting my request to be in my podcast. Such a pleasure.
It's an honor to be asked. Thank you.
You're welcome. I was always, after we talked briefly last time, and, I was always fascinated by the term of leadership and, how people define that. And when I read about you and, you know a lot about the leadership through your training, through the tech and speaking and consulting, all that great stuff, I really want to know how you define leadership.
Well, that's a hard question to unpack, I think. I think it's more about having a positive impact on people when you're there and even when you're not. And to enable them or to create the container for them to experience joy, growth, a sense of contribution, and connection to something larger than themselves. I think that's like a leader. A great leader is not only a barometer to help them move in a direction that achieves something, but infuses that energy. I say, like, to light a fire within them, not under them. Like, letting it under them is pushing them to do something. Letting a fire within them just helps them just give their highest and best contribution, continue to grow, continue to learn, and to work towards something larger than themselves. And I think that's how I view the most powerful, impactful leader. And it could happen at any level, right?
Yes. I was always, thinking that, why is that? Some leader, because I believe that, leadership, it's not about the title, rank, position, or anything else. And some leaders really, they think that their job is what the title of their job gives them, or that's the perimeter of what they're gonna do, which is, I don't think so. As you just mentioned, it's not about that. And I don't know how we can change that mentality in the leadership these days, because totally is different with like in 60s and 70s, all that stuff. Now it's different. Now it's just you roll your sleeve up and you get into it with your troops, and that's what you do, and regardless of your rank and title. And I was always fascinated. Why is that? Why you think is that? Why some leaders think like that they are separated from the crowd, they are separated from their followers?
I think there's two ways of looking at this. One is leadership as far as a role and title is concerned, and leadership as to what the true meaning of the term is. And, some leaders who feel that their role entitles them to have power over people will not be successful. Leaders who look at having power with their people will be successful because it becomes a partnership. And I think it's changed over time because people feel that they have more of a voice in the process. And truthfully, if you feel supported and that you're contributing something of meaning and are honored and valued, you're going to give 100%. If you feel that you're a means to an end for an individual, just to say, you know, my company, my organization is growing in leaps and bounds, regardless of the contribution of people, that what happens is people run the other way because people take jobs because of people leave jobs because of people. And I think we need to pay attention to that. In this day and age, loyalty speaks to how engaged someone is in your organization. It doesn't mean that you have a job, you stay with that job for 30 years. That is the exception to the rule, not the rule anymore. So you need to engage them, respect them, help them learn, grow, and continue to contribute in a way that excites them, that energizes them, that helps them feel that they're doing something of meaning.
But I really like what you just said, and I talk about that all the time. And you said people. And I always, talk to people when I go for speaking or anything or talk about leadership. People, they can make you or break you. And some leaders, they really don't understand the value of their people. As you said that people, if they are happy and they are being trusted, or, you create that safety zone inside the organization and they can feel like, okay, their voice counts, then everything is going to change. Like their clients are going to be happy. Whoever they're going to serve is going to be happy. And some organization, I talk to them, say, yeah, my clients come first. I said, I don't think so. I think my people comes first, because when my people are okay and they are appreciated, they're going to take care of the clients, and the clients are going to be happy. Therefore, as always, people comes first. If you create that safety zone for them that they can trust you, I think everything is going to be okay. And I think that's the biggest problem we have. Don't you think that?
I absolutely agree. And, clients are watching. Clients are watching how, for the most part, I'm not saying all, I'm not going to do a blanket statement for anything. I believe that even subconsciously, they're watching how you treat your people. And they will tend to support organizations that support their people way more than organizations that chew their people up and spit them out kind of thing, because they realize that they're values-based leaders. And I think that is a critical piece. We look at resources, organizational resources. You have one resource really, and that's your people. Without people, without strong relationships, everything else breaks down. If people think that they're being used, they will not contribute 100%. They'll always be behind the eight ball, and they will always be delayed and not giving their best and subpar work and work ethic. If they really respect their leader, they're going to give their best, be their best, and do their best. And that is really one of the critical pieces. So I look at resources as human resources, not in the typical sense of the title of human resource department. Your resources are your people. How you treat them is how they're going to show up. That's the bottom line.
Have you ever had experience, not with a bad leadership, but with a situation you've been in there? And I know you are full of stories, and you've been in there. How did you deal with, I'm going to look at it as a perspective. Somebody's in that environment, because environment is everything. And then you see this leader that they don't do what they're supposed to do. They're not doing the right thing. Maybe as a consultant, maybe as a coach you have done it. How did you tell them that? How did you approach them and tell them, hey, I think you should do this, or this is not what you do?
So in my world, we don't give advice. We ask questions that help them see what they did. And I have a term that I use with some of my clients that's called a mink hole. And a mink hole is a fur-lined rat hole. It feels really good when you do it, but boy, you do have a hard time getting out of that rat hole. And so that's like a code term that I use to maintain confidentiality. So if I see them demolish somebody in real time, I'll just look at them and say, so mink hole perhaps? And they just shake their heads and they said, I had enough. I just needed to let loose, and I know I'm going to have to dig myself out really, really well. And those questions enable them to ask them of themselves when I'm not there. That's the whole point. What is the question they need to ask themselves in the moment, especially when I'm not there? And it's fascinating to see the conversation I'll have with that individual afterwards, because they'll be able to approach it from a perspective of, I screwed up. I really beat myself up after I said that to you. It was totally inappropriate. This is the reason behind why I did it. And we need to go to the core reason of why I felt that I needed to let loose. And what's amazing is everything I do is from an appreciative context. I don't care if I'm working with a CEO or middle manager. I don't work with as many middle managers as I do senior leadership. However, the way I look at it is, what do you want from that person? So in other words, how do you want them to feel at the end of the conversation? Do you want them to feel beat up, or do you want them to feel supported? If you feel good about beating them up, are they going to give you anything in return? And if you want them to feel supported, what must they do next time so this doesn't happen again? And that's the framing of the conversation. And when they have it, it's unbelievable to see the light bulb go off in that other individual's mind, because they realize the impact of what they did that was inappropriate or subpar or whatever else. So what is the question they need to ask? And how do I just shine a light on what happened so they take it and use it as a springboard to do something else? That's what I have to do in my job.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because you basically talking about transparency, like, total transparency, which is, I love that. Right before our podcast, I had my director of marketing said, I need to talk to you, right after, and this is so the, and I said, sure. And she said, I don't think this is working for me. I said, okay, let's talk. What is it? What is the problem? And she said, you are not the problem. You've always been very open, transparent, and everything. I think I have some personal problem. I got to work with myself to know who I am, what I want, and where I want to go. And then we sat down, and then I said, okay, you're a great person, but never ever chase this. We got deep into it, and she asked me, you're not going to just give me my check, just say like other people, then say, here you go, and thank you, sorry, it didn't work. I said, no, because the business is business, but the human affection, the human aspects of this relationship that we created is something else. I'm not upset, while you're living, but thank you for being honest and come to me and say what is not working. Maybe I can do something, but at this point, I think it's all on you to find out who you are, what you want, what you're going to do. And every time you want to come back, you're more than welcome. But I think you got to be honest with yourself. And we had a very nice talk about that. Like the separation was so, and I said, okay, the HR is going to send you this, but separation was like having like a conversation with a friend. And, I think all the leaders, you have to build that with your staff, that they can trust you, they can come to you and talk to you about their problems, suffering, pain, whatever it is. And building that building that trust to be transparent, that takes time. Is that right?
It takes time, it takes openness, and it takes a level of vulnerability to be able to say, I'm listening as a leader. Because a lot of leaders won't do that. They look at their people as expendable and replaceable. So it's very hard for a lot of employees to trust that the leader will listen like you did. And so there needs to be a two-way street. They need to be able to see that this happens on a regular basis, or that it's happened before, so they have something to model it after. If it hasn't happened before, I give this person an incredible amount of credit for being able to share with you openly and honestly what was going on without just saying, I have to resign. So this is kudos to you. You look at what do the conversations have to look like, from her perspective. The question that comes to mind is what she's doing now, something her future self will thank her for. Absolutely. She'll be able to thank herself for self-care, finding out who she is, and having the courage to approach you and be absolutely honest with you, which left the door open for her to come back, for you to say, you're always welcome here. That is an incredible situation that just unfolded that you were able to share with people. And my question is, how do you take that experience and share it with other leaders and organizations to say, it doesn't say that you're weak in order to do this. It says that you're incredibly strong and humane and values-based leader to do it. And, it also shows the rest of the employees that they can come when they're in crisis and be honest about it, and then figure out what's next. And maybe there's another way forward, or maybe there's a leave of absence, or whatever it is. So you're making it easy for somebody to open up and be transparent and vulnerable at the same time. That's a gift, Raman.
I know, this is always my thing. I tell my staff, and, I tell them that if I don't know what is happening with you, anything that you would like to share, how do you expect me to solve it? And I don't know everything. I'm not God. I have my own flaws. I got my own stuff, but if you don't tell me as a leader, my job is to protect you and to serve you, and then be a tool, be a resources to you, and, just kind of help you to grow. But my things is that I totally agree with you that, why I don't talk to the leaders. And this is maybe you can help me out. I have a military background. I was in that position for a long time in the war and all that stuff. And then I came to civil life, to civilization, you call it. And then, it was very, very hard for me. I worked a couple of corporations, and, it was very hard for me to adapt. I don't know. And I was kind of suffering. I said, this is not for me, because the true leadership that we saw over there, it wasn't about the title. It wasn't about the rank. It was all about the man next to you, who is on your right, who is on your left, how you can protect them. And it's still, I have that mentality that when I work in the corporation, or I work in my agency or the business, my whole goal is, can I accomplish that? Can I just serve these people? Can I be, the first out, and the last in, and I, like they have to eat first, all that stuff, it's very hard. I don't know if you have any experience with that transition between a military personnel coming to the civilian life. And I talked to some of them, and, we all have the same problem. It's that leadership mentality. We don't see it in corporate America. Like they don't care. It's just, but we care. And I suffer a lot just going through that, and I adapt, but I couldn't, and I had to leave. I was the chief operating officer of one of the biggest transportation company. And I went to the CEO. I said, I can't operate. I got 40 people under my command, and, they can't even talk to you, and they're scared to talk to you. But I don't know how we're going to tackle this, how we're going to do this. It was very, very hard. That's why, I decided I want to work for myself. I want to create the environment and the company that I'm proud of, and love my staff is like my troops, because, they are my troops. Have you ever had that kind of situation? Like talking to somebody? I've had
multiple situations, and I've worked with people in the military. I worked with people who've been over in Afghanistan training and coming back with PTSD. Very, very difficult. There are a few things to consider here, and I want to unpack that for a moment. One is, you're going in with the assumption in the military that the person next to you has your back. It's all about safety, coming out in hopefully one piece, alive. and that you trust that the person next to you is going to have your back and vice versa. Those leaders that you're working for when you come into the corporate environment have not had that experience. They don't know what it's like to trust their lives to somebody else. So it's a very different thing. They're looking at bottom line, they're looking at competition, they're looking at success. And I reached that and such a competitive spirit that it's secondary to have somebody's back in many ways, in many areas. And so it's apples and oranges to them because they don't really understand what you mean by in the military. This is what was commonplace. This is the rule, not the exception. And in a corporate environment, people just don't approach senior leaders in a way that they feel comfortable and able to do so honestly. And so it's very different. And what you could do is a contribution to say, this is how I want to approach this. I want to approach this through an appreciative stance. What I want to see more of, what I want to see less of. This is course correcting. If you continue to do this, it'll be mind-boggling, amazing. So what you're doing is continuing to support someone in a way that helps them grow and continue to learn. In the military, you're also directed to a great extent as to what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And so there's fewer variables. In the corporate environment, there's a lot of trial and error. I mean, there's strategy, all of that put in place. It's not as prescriptive as it is in the military. So it is very different. The people that I work with who have come out of the military into civilian life, they absolutely do struggle because it's not only the environment they're going into, they're leaving an environment where the people they served with is family. If you think about it, a lot of them have moved from place to place to place. So, their friends change, their schools change growing up if they were, military kids. As adults, again, they're moving constantly, even if they're married, and they find relationships are harder to forge other than those that they serve with. That's their family. You don't get that in a corporate environment for the most part. So it's a very different environment. And I always say to people, if you're going to go into civilian life, into a corporate environment, an organizational environment, interview the people who work there to see if they are one happy family, so to speak, or if they have relationships from work outside of the workplace, if they continue those relationships, if they're a tight-knit group, if they socialize. Find out more about that, because if that happens, more of those honest conversations are going to happen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But, sometimes I really cannot disconnect myself from the past. It's very hard, like to just say, okay, now the life has changed and I can't do that. I still shine my shoes every morning and I do all this stuff. I still, just iron my clothes. Even I iron my wife's uniform. She's in the law enforcement. And then yesterday she asked me a question because this is another topic we talk about, like in the leadership in law enforcement is so broken right now. And she asked me for advice, and I said, baby, it's not like it used to be. And this is, I think, and she's a high rank in the chain, and said, this is what you have to do. It's a lot, she's all about the people, but when the top person in the organization doesn't get it, the whole thing falls apart. And it's just, I always tell everybody that the top guy doesn't get it, then how are you going to fix the whole thing? Because whatever you do in the second layer, third layer, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You can't change the environment. And then that's the most difficult thing to do. I'm sure you had experienced that, to go actually change the guy as a leader or the gal as a leader, because some people, they're not open to change. Because I believe if you want to change something, you got to change yourself first.
I absolutely agree with you. You also have impact, though. I work with a sergeant in the police force who is amazing. And if you ask any cop that you'll come across who knows him, they'll start smiling the minute you mention his name. That's how much of a positive impact he has on people. And it's so funny because he says, if he happens to detain somebody for whatever they did, his first line of attack is to educate them why he is doing that in the first place. And if they get it and they say what they'll do, and he really believes them, then he lets them off with a warning. And if they start giving him a hard time, we pay your salary, that kind of stuff, that's when, he'll throw the book at them, kind of thing. But for his counterparts, it's always looking at, how do I support them? I talk to him about peer support, especially after a horrible call. How do you reach out and support each other, do peer coaching, all that kind of stuff. He's not the highest rank. He's not. He has such an incredible impact in his area that he goes home at night knowing he made a difference in some of his fellow officers' lives. And if that's what it is, that's what it is. He's still making a difference. He's making a difference for those that he impacts, the public that he protects, because that's the bottom line. And I always say to him, how many have you saved? Because he's lost people, obviously. Stop focusing on those that you've lost and focus on those that you've saved. And, that ledger is going to be, weighed much more heavily, because every day he's going to save somebody in some way, shape, or form, or change their lives in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's a conversation to have with some senior leaders as well. How many lives could you impact today? How do you want them to feel every time they interact with you? Do they want to see you coming with a smile, or run the other way because they think that there's something wrong? How often do you have a walkabout to just get to know your people? These are things that could happen. I know that they're busy. I work with them. They are busy. But let me tell you, you take a moment to say, how was your weekend? And wait to listen to the answer. And they're going to be smiling for the rest of the day, because the boss took the moment to come and check in with them to see if they're doing okay. And there's nothing that compares to that. Caring for other human beings, period.
Oh, yeah, we had this discussion. I'm so happy that you said that. And I'm so happy that you have experience with the law enforcement, because, I have a circle of police chiefs that I'm hanging around with. I said, and I will always make fun of them. I said, what was the last time you went actually on patrol? What was the last time you actually went on the call and actually you wrote the ticket and actually you rode with the officer and asked them, how is the family? How is everything and everything?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, 9 out of 10, they don't do it. And they said, oh, we are busy. I said, come on, your department's got 232 people. The whole year is 365 days. Don't tell me you don't have a one night, 2 hours a week when you get off at 5, 6 p.m. You said, okay, I'm going to have a grab something. I'm going to jump in a patrol car, and I want to actually take a call from dispatcher and then go out there and do serve and connect and educate people and then be my troops. That's what I always have a hard time to get it, because we're always there. And, and I told my wife, she rides it. She rides every month and then goes out there to be there, even if it's not her job. But I said, that's how, as you said, Donna, that these people, they care, and you create that trust between them, and you create that environment that everybody's talking about you. They said, oh, if the officer doesn't see his or her chief out there every a year or something, say, how are they going to trust that people? And this is very simple to you and I, but it gets very complicated to them. I don't know why. I said, how hard is it, pass somebody's room and say, good morning, how are you? How is everything? How is the family? How is Jason? How is Jennifer, your daughter? Are they? That's it. That will change so many things. But people pass by your door and no say, no hi, no good morning, and everything else. And then you expect that people to stand up for you and protect you. And it just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't. Maybe I always say maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Maybe I have a high expectation from, myself, or because I love people, and there's not a lot of good people out there. I fight against them, name it ISIS and everything else. But I'm just saying that. But it's still there are good people out there that you can learn from and serve. But how difficult is this for a leadership, even from the politician, from law enforcement, corporate, to understand that simple fact?
There are a few factors here. One is the senior leadership often doesn't have a moment to breathe. Like every hour, every 15 minutes is booked. They're booked with calls and meetings, and they're on and off planes and everything else. It's unbelievable. It's interesting. I was working with a corporation in Chicago and working with the CEO, like 5 of his direct reports. And I was very honest. I said, the only way that I'm going to be able to do this and do it well is to have access to you, to be able to interview you, do an intake on a regular basis, so you recognize the changes that are being made. Because I'm an organizational psychologist as well. I'm looking at, all the systems, people systems, human systems, and organizational systems. And it was amazing because I would say to his assistant, I need 15 minutes. And she would look at me and say, we don't book meetings in 15 minutes. I said, what do you book in? She says, usually it's an hour. So I said, half an hour? So she said, I could book it in a half an hour. I said, if he doesn't need the half hour, I need 15 minutes. If he wants the other 15 minutes, fine. If he doesn't, then he has 15 minutes of free time. Go figure. So she booked me in for an hour because that's what they do. And I walked in and I said, this is what I need from you. Like, I was super honest. And I said, I need 15 minutes of your time. He says, I thought we have an hour. I said, the other 45 minutes is yours if you want it. And he just started laughing. He says, nobody wants less time. They all want more time. I said, you're a busy person. This is what I need from you. And I gave him a list. This is the data that I need to collect for my ongoing work. And if you have any other questions, and he knows I work with TED, so he started asking me TED questions and how do you bring innovation into our corporation, based on the TED model. And those were great conversations. What was interesting was he never wore a wristwatch ever. So his assistant used to have to drag him out of a meeting to get him into another meeting, which means he's not speaking to people in between these meetings. It's back to back to back to back. When I had a meeting with him, he was never late. He would come and get me because I'd be in the building. And then he'd say, okay, we have not look at his watch, look at his phone and say, we have another 45 minutes. This is what I want to talk about. And then I would go back to people. You want innovation. How do you bring it from within? How do you invite your people to give more than what they're giving, to recognize that the great minds are already in the room and that you care enough to tap into them? And we changed the entire environment just with that question, because that's your resource. Why always look from outside the organization, consultants, companies, whatever, to bring in innovation? You have people with great ideas right under your nose. Tap into them and tell them you're interested in hearing. And it totally changed the environment. It was unbelievable. So there are ways to do it. They need to be able to see how it's possible in their fast-paced worlds.
Yes, I have something similar to that I tell my staff they're kind of, they have to give me one idea every week. It doesn't matter what it is. And, and we think about it as a team and we talk about it. Like yesterday we said, okay, how are we going to cut our food costs? Because I see every day they go eat out and, it's expensive. And so one of them said, how about we get food and we put in the fridge and ask everybody what they want and then we all chip in? Or I said, okay, you guys, whatever you put, I'll match it and then we're going to get it. And then this is how today in our fridge, we have salads. We got everything everybody likes. And I think we can cut their food cost by 50%. And they love that. Now we got a snack, we got this. And I said, guys, I didn't know that. Like I didn't even think about it, but they gave me that idea, or they have another idea, like for how about we use this software? I totally agree with you. You don't know what people can bring to the table until you ask them.
That's right.
This is a fact. But Donna, I want to talk to you all day. But I know you don't have time and you're very busy, but I really, really enjoyed my conversation with you. I hope we can talk more, and it's a lot about a lot of other stuff, and I can learn from you. The only reason that I really interview people is just I can learn so much. Like I had a coaching session with you right now. I learned so much. I took a note. And that's the blessed, and I'm grateful for that. But for my listeners, how people they can go find you, what actually you can help my audience with if they have any question, where can find you?
You could check me out on my website, which is the No Ceiling Just Sky Institute, and LinkedIn. Just look up Donna Karlin with a K, and you'll see all my background there. And if there's anything that intrigues you, send me a note or connect with me on LinkedIn. It's I always look at what am I sharing that'll impact more people than in my immediate world. So I'm always posting on LinkedIn questions to answer. Somebody that Steve Harper and I do Inquiring Minds with Donna Karlin and Steve Harper, and we ask some relevant questions that people are growing because of some of the critical issues that people are dealing with every single day. So, sign up for that and come to our live broadcast on the 16th. That'll be on LinkedIn. So you have ways of finding me. And I look forward to hearing what people are dealing with, because that tells me what's going on in the world.
That would be awesome. And I hope one day you're going to be in Austin. You can chat and talk face to face, and then just have fun and do that. But if there's anything that I can help you, I'm always here. Just let me know. But, I'm grateful that I got to know you, and I'm grateful to have such a good friend like you. And, this is a bless. This is a bless.
Thanks so much. And anytime, just holler.
Thank you so much, Donna. You have a wonderful day, dear.
You as well.